Hiya! Today, let's look at the retention reports. In order to access retention reports, click on Reports and select Retention. You can also access the retention reports from any other report by selecting Retention Report. Now, what is the retention report for? This helps you understand or measure the stickiness of your users to your product. What it requires is for your users to have done a certain action within your product, to have exited your app or your product, and to come back again and perform another action. And therefore, there are two specific events that you need to provide within this query. Since we're still in the e-commerce dataset, I'm going to go ahead and select how many users completed their sign up, who left the product, and came back and completed a purchase. Now, one thing that you'll see straight away that is very different with the retention report is that the default time range or the date range is for the last 7 days. You will also see that there's something called a retention criteria, which is different from the conversion criteria that we saw in other reports. Now, there is a reason for this. Retention criteria is measured in two different ways in Mixpanel. You could either select the on or after retention or the on retention for your retention criteria. Now, what is the difference between both? On or after retention is a slightly more flexible way of defining a retention window for your users. So in this case, we would be looking at how many users came into your product, left, and came back for a 7-day period. And it would also require your users to not have come back every single day, but to have come back some of the days within that 7-day period. On retention works slightly more differently. It's rigid and it requires your users to have come back every single day within that last 7-day period. And therefore, depending on what your product's natural frequency is, you might want to choose either on or after retention. In my experience of working with customers, typically products like gaming products or stock trading apps would typically look at an on retention criteria because their natural frequency for users coming back into their products is much higher. However, if that's not the case for your product, then you can select the more flexible on or after retention criteria. Now let's look at the visualization. So the visualization here shows us, and we can take an example here. So there were 367 users that entered this cohort on the week starting 27th of May, of which 99 users came back in less than a day, 95 users came back into the product after a day, 90 users after the second day, and so on and so forth. You are able to see not only the retained users, but even the dropped off users. And what's interesting is you can actually go ahead and view who these users are, create a cohort, and take action on these users to bring them back into your retention funnel. What else can you do with the retention report? So you can represent this data as a retention curve. You can also represent this data as a retention trend. You can change your date range or your time range for a wider time period. You can apply filters like you would for other reports, and also breakdowns in case you want to do further comparisons, let's say on the basis of things like payment method or UTM campaign, and so on and so forth.